Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, this is about the government's plan to introduce, it's just been introduced, a cap on tax credits that would restrict benefits to the first 2 children in any family. But an exemption exists for children born as a result of rape, but women would have to provide evidence to the state to qualify. What do you want to see happen, Tommy?
Well, I want it scrapped, to be honest. I mean, you know, the government this was slipped out last year by George Osborne in the small print of his 2016 budget. The government has faced universal opposition to this, including in the United Nations. It then had a consultation just before Christmas and slipped the results out on the day of Donald Trump's inauguration, and has decided foolishly, I think, to go ahead with this quite abhorrent policy. I mean, the idea of making low-paid women prove that they were raped in order to get access to tax credits, I think, will offend most right-minded people's sensitivities in a civilised society.
I understand that completely, but can I just get your view on the policy more broadly? Are you against a policy that limits benefits, tax credits, to families of 2 children and not more?
Yes, I am. I don't think it's for the government to decide on a 2-child policy for British families. I think that tax credits should be done on the basis of people's need, and therefore you should be able to apply on the size of your family. And if somebody has 3 or 4 children that they're trying to bring up, I think then they're deserving of a larger tax credit than somebody with 1 or 2. That's always been the case up until a week ago.
Just stay with us. I'm going to welcome James Delingpole from Breitbart. You've made it. In response to what you've heard there from Tommy Shepherd on this, I mean, isn't this the problem with unforeseen or not thought through consequences of a benefits policy?
I think this is the kind of low politics in which the SNP specialises, and I think it's why...
Well, they didn't make up the clause.
No, wait a second. It's why moderate people find something slightly repellent about the SNP, and why they're probably going to be glad they're going to lose a few seats in the next election. This is the bedroom tax redux. A perfectly sensible policy designed to reduce the amount of benefits paid out for women who want to use childbearing as a career option. That's sensible. So what they obviously, somewhat foolishly as it turns out did, was introduce this clause whereby the 3rd child, if you want to claim benefits for a 3rd child, if you've been raped, it's been twisted by the SNP into being a really bad thing.
But why is it being twisted?
They can bandy about the phrase rape clause. Why is it being twisted?
Well, hang on, Jose, because why is it being twisted? Why is it the case that you say it's women who want to bear children as a living? Why is it that the government did not think through properly when they are trying to limit and reduce benefits, which people may arguably say isn't going to stop that much more money being spent from the public purse, that they bring in something that people would find humiliating and degrading, which is to ask women to state in a paper how they've been raped?
Because whoever introduced that clause reckoned without the malign cunning of the SNP.
All right. Well,
it was just designed to look after women who have been raped. It was meant to be kind, and instead it turned out to be abused.
OK, Tommy Shepherd, malign cunning of the SNP. Are you not just focusing on this because you know it's very emotive, rather than actually the policy itself?
No. I mean, and it's really quite shocking that you know, they're defending this policy and then they're attacking people who criticise it. I should say, Joe, the criticism comes from right across the political spectrum, including many conservative people who are rightly... This does offend the sensitivities. The idea of forcing low-paid, hard-working women to fill in an 8-page form to prove they were raped in order to get access to tax credits should have no place in a civilised society. And if the government had any sense, they would just scrap it in the manifesto, make a pledge to review and get rid of it. And I think they would be applauded for that.
All right. Well, Jenny Russell, what do you think? Should the government drop the whole policy, then, as it would seem Tommy Shepherd is suggesting, in order that this, as they call it, rape clause, is also dropped?
I don't have an easy answer to this. I think it's a very difficult situation, because I think generally the idea that most people should only be able to get tax credits for 2 children would probably be electorally popular, because there are a small handful of people who do have a large number of children. But it's wrong to say, as James does, that these tax credits only apply to people who are staying at home. Tax credits under universal credit are there to support people in low-wage jobs. And often people will end up having third children, not necessarily intentionally, but by accident. Now, the problem with this is that when you look at the form itself, it is absolutely bleak and horrifying to see in heavy type form to fill in if your child is as a result of rape or coercive control. It also raises all kinds of questions about what would the child themselves understand about their conception. Supposing you're a mother and this had happened to you, and you have 3 children, and then your children realise that actually you're getting the money into your household for 3 children, when most people only get 2. You might not want any child to know that they were born as the result of such an incident. There's so many unpleasant ramifications of this that it seems to me that the government may have to pull back from this simply because it's so nasty.
And it was very uncomfortable for Theresa May when she was asked about it at Prime Minister's Questions.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is the kind of sensitive liberal whataboutery, which is precisely why government will always expand, never retreat, because people will always say, well, what about this particular special case? What about that? I mean, the reason that this clause was introduced was to protect women who had been raped, not to sort of stigmatise all women. And if we're not going to enforce these rules, then, yeah, I mean, if the government doesn't have the courage to enforce them, then maybe they should not bother.
And Tommy Shepherd, just before we finish on this subject, one of your MSPs said that the government was demanding that victims describe their trauma in detail to DWP, so the Department of Work and Pension civil servants. I mean, that isn't the case, is it? Just as a matter of fact, they will actually be speaking to a healthcare professional, a third party, if this policy is stuck to.
Well, there's a very detailed form to fill in, but I mean, we come back to the basic point, Joe, that this is a disgraceful policy that the government should get rid of. I mean, let's not pretend that I'm opposing this because I'm some sort of bleeding heart liberal. This is a difference between people who believe in decency in our political system and people who do not.
Tommy Shepherd, thank you very much.
I've been getting away with it.